Alright, so today I will go over and explain the insanity that is the Return to the Demon Castle arc in solo leveling. Now this arc is just wild as Jinwoo re-enters the demon castle to get the holy water of life for his mother, but after he's managed to climb all of the floors, he faces off against one of the strongest opponents he's ever fought, which I'm telling you right now is completely insane. So I would definitely recommend you sticking to the end, because this is an arc you don't want to miss. Anyway, with that said, this is spoilers for anime only watchers, so be careful of that. But with that out of the way, please leave a like and a comment on this video, and grab your favorite snacks, and with that out of the way, let's get right into it. The scene then shifts to Jin-ho, who is sitting in a cafe waiting for the fated hour to approach and tells himself to stay determined, as Jinwoo's decision will determine his fate. Jin-ho sees Jinwoo entering the cafe, so he calls Jinwoo to let him know where he is sitting. Jin-ho asks the reason behind Jinwoo's roughed up clothes, to which Jinwoo responds that he just came back from a dungeon. Jin-ho is amazed to find out that despite being this strong, Jinwoo is still training in dungeons during his spare time, which is something that is expected of Jinwoo. Jin-ho tells Jinwoo about his negotiations with his father and informs him how, during the negotiation, Go Myung-hwan appeared out of nowhere and revealed everything about the Red Gate incident to Jin-ho's father, along with the fact that Jinwoo saved the entire White Tiger Guild's members. Jinwoo listens to the complete story of Jin-ho and thinks that Go Myung-hwan did something really unnecessary. From Jin-ho's story, Jinwoo concludes that Jin-ho needs his cooperation in order to become the master of the Yujin Guild. Jin-ho tells Jinwoo that he will leave everything to Jinwoo's decision, as there is no need for him to weigh Jinwoo down. The scene then shifts to the Hunters Guild, where Choi Jong-in gets shocked after hearing that Jinwoo came to their raids and worked with the mining team and Porter for 2 days, urging Seon-gi to explain what is going on here. Seon-gi tells Choi Jong-in that he has no idea what Jinwoo was thinking when he volunteered to join as a porter, but he is certain that Jinwoo's aim was not to interfere with their raid. Seon-gi adds that Jinwoo was originally planning on watching from the side as a porter, but he had no choice but to step in when he realized that the dungeon boss is beyond the scope of the attack force's knowledge, and they are not able to take care of it themselves. Choi Jong-in realizes the inability of his guild, as even they had to receive Jinwoo's help after the White Tiger Guild. Choi Jong-in was informed by Seon-gi that not only is Jinwoo able to summon numerous creatures, but he can also move like assassin-type hunters, and he has the ability to raise the dead monsters to fight on his command. However, these are the abilities that they know so far, but things would change if Jinwoo has more hidden abilities. Choi Jong-in ponders for a bit, and then asks Seon-gi who would come out on top if Seon-gi was to compare Choi Jong-in and Jinwoo. Seon-gi, instead of giving a one-word answer, explains to Choi Jong-in that to cover the weaknesses of each position in a raid, the attack force is divided into specific duties, which are attack duty, tank duty, and support duty. And without these 3 duties in place, the attack force would be in danger. Seon-gi adds that it is common sense to know that the weaknesses of each member will be covered by the other teammates, but these rules do not apply to Jinwoo because he is someone that surpasses all of that. To clearly give Choi Jong-in an idea of Jinwoo's strength, Seon-gi asks him if he would be able to clear a highly ranked dungeon among the A-ranked dungeons all by himself. The mere thought of that is enough to make Choi Jong-in tremble, because he completely realizes that no matter how strong he is, it would be hard for him to keep up his defense if he were to get surrounded by too many monsters. So after thinking for a while, Choi Jong-in accepts that it would be impossible for him to pull off such a feat, which makes his title of Ultimate sound ludicrous. The scene then shifts to the associations, where a large number of reporters are gathered to report news about Lee Min-sung, who is a huge name in the entertainment world. However, he has decided to retire because he plans to get evaluated at the Hunters Association. Lee Min-sung is pleased at the large numbers of the reporters, as he believes that it should be at least this much of a crowd. A journalist shows him the headline that would appear on news channels tomorrow, which talks about the story of the man who had everything, but now obtains the power that surpasses human, which Lee Min-sung finds good, although a bit childish. As the reporters are waiting for Lee Min-sung's evaluation, they are shocked to see Baek Yoon-ho and Choi Jong-in arrive at the Hunters Association. Baek Yoon-ho is surprised to see a huge crowd of reporters at the Hunters Association and wonders what they are doing here, while the reporters are curious if Baek Yoon-ho and Choi Jong-in are at the association to recruit Lee Min-sung. The reporters ask them about Lee Min-sung's rank according to them, and their opinion regarding the possible retirement of Lee Min-sung from the entertainment world as the representative of South Korea's hunters. The reporters approach Baek Yoon-ho, who does not understand why the reporters are holding the press conference in front of the association, and is surprised to find out that all of these reporters are gathered for someone named Lee Min-sung. Baek Yoon-ho responds that he has nothing to say as he is not here for Lee Min-sung, while Choi Jong-in tells the reporters that they might already know that Lee Min-sung has already signed a contract with the Reaper Guild and informs the reporters he is at the Hunters Association for other matters. The Reaper Guild is the nation's former #1 guild that is now active in the Seoul metropolitan area, which fell in ranking after the White Tiger Guild separated from the Reapers Guild and the Hunters Guild rose in power. After listening to the responses of both guild leaders, the reporters are disappointed because they thought it would be a big scoop. Baek Yoon-ho then smirks at Choi Jong-in and mentions how he heard about Hunters Guild barely escaped from a great calamity, but Choi Jong-in calmly responds that their loss is nothing compared to the White Tiger Guild. Baek Yoon-ho gets burned with that comment, but tries to calm himself down and tells Choi Jong-in that regardless of the damage, both of them ended up receiving Jinwoo's help, to which Choi Jong-in agrees and mentions that without Jinwoo's assistance, their B team would have been annihilated by the High Orcs, so because of that, he wants to bring Jinwoo to his guild at any cost. However, Baek Yoon-ho imposingly argues that since his guild experienced casualties, they should recruit Jinwoo as a part of the reinforcements. Choi Jong-in responds in the same manner and asks Baek Yoon-ho if he plans on going to war somewhere that he wants to hire an S rank as an enforcement, to which Baek Yoon-ho responds that he never knew that Choi Jong-in was so morally obligated. As Baek Yoon-ho and Choi Jong-in are bickering about Jinwoo, they are interrupted by the guildmaster of the Reaper Guild, Lim Tae-gyu, who is also a S rank, as he wonders whether both of them are fighting over their Lee Min-sung, to which both of them fiercely respond that they do not care a bit about Lee Min-sung, which surprises Lim Tae-gyu because he was not expecting that response. Lee Min-sung is watching the entire drama between Choi Jong-in and Baek Yoon-ho, and he assumes that the nation's top guilds are fighting over him. The journalist tells Lee Min-sung that they are ready and tells him that they will be starting with the interviews first. Lee Min-sung gets out of his car and starts waving in front of the huge crowd of reporters, just like a celebrity, while Jinwoo, on the other hand, has just arrived at the Hunters Association for his re-evaluation, but is stopped by the crowd in front of him. Jinwoo looks at the crowd of reporters and wonders if the reporter already caught wind of the news about his re-evaluation, since he is going to become the 10th S-rank hunter of South Korea, but soon realizes that it is not the case, because none of the reporters seem to recognize Jinwoo. The reporters are blocking Jinwoo's way, and he realizes that he would not be able to get to the Hunters Association building if he waits for the crowd to thin out, so he starts making his way on his own by pushing the reporters as he moves forward. After annoying many reporters, Jinwoo manages to reach the entrance of the Hunters Association building, but is stopped by the guard, who asks Jinwoo about his identity, as only those who are with the Hunters Association are allowed to pass through. The guard tells Jinwoo that he is not supposed to walk past through all the reporters like that, but Jinwoo tells him that he has business with the association, to which the guard responds that no one is allowed to enter right now, telling Jinwoo to go back to where he came from. Lee Min-sung, who was about to enter the Hunters Association, stops for a moment to watch this drama and concludes that Jinwoo is a crazy guy who the guard should get rid of immediately. Jinwoo is insisting on entering the association building, but the guard tells him to go away as he is not allowed to enter the building. But as they are talking, the chairman of the Hunters Association, Go Gun-hee, comes out of the building and questions the guard's authority in sending Jinwoo away. Both the guard and Lee Min-sung are surprised to see Chairman Gun-hee in front of them, while Gun-hee, on the other hand, tells Lee Min-sung that Jinwoo is the guest of Hunters Association, and tells Lee Min-sung to remember who allowed him to hold a conference in front of Hunters Association building in the first place. Lee Min-sung knows that it was none other than Chairman Gun-hee who gave them the permission to hold the conference, so he does not say anything to Gun-hee. Gun-hee welcomes Jinwoo inside the building, while reporters who witnessed this are curious about the identity of the man whom the Chairman Gun-hee personally escorted inside. Lee Min-sung is furious at Jinwoo for ruining his wonderfully planned debut and tells his subordinate to find out what kind of big shot Jinwoo actually is. Lee Min-sung looks at the faces of the reporters, which makes him think that their attention has been diverted towards Jinwoo. So to fix this ruined mood, he decides to move forward with the planned schedule and start the evaluation right away. Lee Min-sung requests the reporters to excuse him for a moment, as he is going to have a quick discussion with the Hunters Association regarding today's schedule. But as he tries to enter the building, Lee Min-sung is stopped by Jin-chul along with his two subordinates. Lee Min-sung does not understand what is going on, so he asks Jin-chul about it, to which Jin-chul responds that another hunter is currently going through an evaluation, so no one is allowed to enter the building until the evaluation is finished at 11 o'clock. Lee Min-sung gets shocked after hearing that, because there are still 30 whole minutes left till the clock strikes 11, and wonders if by another hunter, Jinchul means the guy that entered along with the chairman Gun-hee just a moment ago. Lee Min-sung urges Jinchul to let him enter the building because he has his rank evaluation appointment at sharp 11 o'clock, and the reporters are already here. Lee Min-sung asks Jinchul if he is going to stop him from entering the building, even though Chairman Gun-hee knows about this beforehand, to which Jinchul responds that if he has his rank evaluation appointment at 11 o'clock, then he can enter the building when it is 11 o'clock. After realizing that his words are not working on Jinchul, Lee Min-sung tries to scare Jinchul by his status, telling that he is the Lee Min-sung, whose father, Lee Won-kyu, is the president of the Yujin Architectures, which is the biggest sponsor of the Hunters Association, which means that Jinchul should prioritize catering Lee Min-sung, considering the amount of money his father donates to the association. Lee Min-sung then asks Jinchul if he can handle consequences resulting in being daring enough to ignore him in front of all these cameras and all these people who are here recording every moment of this. Jinchul calmly responds to Lee Min-sung that he can easily handle the consequences of his actions, which shocks Lee Min-sung. So he tells Jinchul to remember his place, asking Jinchul if the hunter whom Chairman Gun-hee escorted is really that amazing. Jinchul removes his glasses and glares at Lee Min-sung, imposingly asking him if he is prepared to deal with the consequences if Jinchul tells him about the man Lee Min-sung is asking about. The mere glare of Jinchul sends shivers down Lee Min-sung's spine, and he does not dare to say a word after that. The scene then shifts to Jinwoo, who is being escorted by Chairman Gun-hee towards the evaluation room, where he is greeted by Choi Jong-in and Baek Yoon-ho, one of the strongest hunters of South Korea, as informs Jinwoo that they arrived here an hour ago and have been waiting for Jinwoo since then. Gun-hee then informs Jinwoo that he is the first S-rank hunter in 2 years, and mentions that Choi Jong-in must be feeling even more anxious than anyone out there since he witnessed Jinwoo's powers firsthand. After much waiting, Jinwoo finally reaches the evaluation room, where he is greeted by the evaluator. The evaluator informs Jinwoo that before they begin the evaluation, they would like to confirm Jinwoo's abilities so that they can assign his class, and instructs Jinwoo to demonstrate the abilities that he can use, on which Jinwoo summons a shadow soldier, telling the evaluator that he is capable of something like this. Chairman Gun-hee and the evaluator are both shocked to see Jinwoo is able to summon and control creatures. However, Gun-hee does not think that Jinwoo is expressing his full power, so he asks Jinwoo if this is the full capacity of his ability. Jinwoo realizes that he cannot continue to hide his abilities from now on, and thinks that there is no point in lying since there were lots of witnesses when he turned the high orcs into his shadow soldiers in the boss room. Jinwoo then summons a few more of his shadow soldiers, including Igris, Tank, and the high orc generals, and tells Chairman Gun-hee that he can summon about 100 more soldiers like these. Everyone present in the evaluation room gets shocked when they see Jinwoo summon high-rank soldiers like Igris and Tank in front of them, while the evaluator is shocked to hear that this is not the limit of Jinwoo's shadow army. Baek Yoon-ho, who is also present in the evaluation room, is shocked to see such a powerful energy from Jinwoo, and concludes that Jinwoo cannot be compared to when he met him before, as Jinwoo is now completely overwhelming him. Jinwoo was easily able to get his S-rank card, but as he walks out of the evaluation room, he is again greeted by Baek Yoon-ho and Choi Jong-in. Baek Yoon-ho asks Jinwoo if it would be possible for him to spare some of his time, to which Jinwoo apologizes, telling Baek Yoon-ho that he still has some things that he needs to do, and opens the main gate of the association building, which surprises Choi Jong-in, while Baek Yoon-ho tells Jinwoo that he would not leave through that door if he were in Jinwoo's place. Jinwoo does not understand what Baek Yoon-ho is trying to say, and wonders if he is telling him that he has prepared a significant contract for Jinwoo that he will regret if he simply leaves. Jinwoo pays no attention to that, and walks out of the association building through the main door, but gets shocked to find a huge crowd of reporters pointing cameras at him. Jinwoo is live on all the news channels of Korea, which also shocks Song-yi, who then tells Gina that her brother is on TV, but Gina does not believe her until she herself sees Jinwoo on TV. The scene then shifts to the point where Lee Min-sung was addressing to the crowd of reporters 10 minutes ago, telling them that even if his evaluation does not go well and he ends up receiving a low rank, he would still fight monsters to repay the love and kindness that he has received by everyone up until now. Lee Min-sung assures the people of South Korea that regardless of the evaluation result, he would protect the citizens as a hunter. The reporters get shocked when they hear this, because it means that Lee Min-sung is ready to abandon his title of Asia's #1 star to be a low-rank hunter, as they cannot believe that Lee Min-sung is willing to throw everything away if he becomes a low-rank hunter, However, they do not know that all of this is for show and is a blatant lie, because Lee Min-sung has already been evaluated with an A rank. Lee Min-sung plans on receiving a huge sum of money for 2 years as a hunter, while under the employ of the Reaper Guild's public relations, as this kind of scheme is best when it comes to eliminating any weird rumors or complications with military service, because stepping down from the highest point and risking one's own life to protect the citizens is a spectacular role. Lee Min-sung then wants to mention how Reaper's Guild Master Lim Taekyu also shares his vision, but he is not even able to finish his sentence when all the reporters receive the news from the association about the announcement of South Korea's 10th S-rank hunter. The reporters get further shocked to find out that the homepage of Hunters Association was updated where Jinwoo is shown as South Korea's 10th S-rank hunter. The reporters then suddenly realize that the reason the evaluation room was off limits in the morning was not because of Lee Min-sung, but rather it was booked for the new S-rank hunter. Lee Min-sung does not understand what is going on, as he sees the reporters ignore him one by one as they rush to report news about the new S-rank hunter, telling the association that they should notify them about these things ahead of time. However, they are stopped by Jinchul and his subordinates. Lee Min-sung cannot bring himself to believe that there is a new S-rank at the day he was about to get evaluated, so to make sure things do not crumble further, he decides to ask reporter Lim, who was guiding him through the whole process, regarding this. But reporter Lim also ditches Lee Min-sung, assuring him that he would contact him after this. Reporter Lim then contacts his office, telling them to change tomorrow's headline to "The Woes of an E rank turn into Tears of Joy for an S rank." The scene then shifts to the mining team, where Jinwoo worked as a miner, as the mining leader is surprised to see Jinwoo on TV. The miner who spreaded false propaganda about Jinwoo tells the mining leader that he knew that Jinwoo was a wicked individual the moment Jinwoo looked him into his eyes, which gives the false idea to rest of the miners that Jinwoo did some kind of crimes, but everyone stares at him when the news mention that Jinwoo is the 10th S-rank hunter of Korea. Jinho's father also comes to know about the news of Jinwoo becoming an S-rank mage class hunter and asks Jinho if he succeeded in recruiting Jinwoo, to which Jinho apologizes to his father for not winning over Jinwoo, as Jinwoo has decided to create his own guild, and he offered Jinho the position of vice master. Jinho's father is surprised and gives a gentle smile when he hears this, asking Jinho if he knows the reason Yujin Guild was created, to which Jinho responds that it was created to earn money. Jinho's father corrects him, saying that if it was about money, he already had plenty, and asks Jinho if he believes his father would create a major guild only to cause trouble for a few pennies. Jinho never knew this, so he asks his father about the true reason behind the creation of the Yujin Guild, to which his father responds that it was created to protect their family, as the powers and influences of hunters are growing every day, and there are even cases of one hunter's influence and power being equivalent to an entire nation. Additionally, there are these so-called ultimate hunters who have surpassed S rank and are now known as nation-level hunters, which means that in a situation where some small nations are already treating hunters like kings, it is unclear how long the law and government authority will protect normal people. Jinho's father mentions that he wanted to gather trustworthy hunters by creating a guild, which is based on dependable hunters that were not drawn in by money or personal connections, and Jinho has seemed to have already found such a person. Jinho's father informs him that he has passed his test, so he decides to leave the Yujin Guild to him, telling him to develop the Yujin and make allies out of strong and trustworthy hunters, as they will soon become more valuable than any form of wealth. Jinho thanks his father for leaving the Yujin Guild to him, but refuses to take the responsibility of being the guild master because he has already decided that he will join Jinwoo's guild. The scene then shifts to Jinwoo, who is wondering why the reporters are taking pictures of him instead of Lee Min-sung. One of the reporters asks Jinwoo if he is the E rank that was working under the association, and tells Jinwoo to express his feelings on becoming a rarely witnessed double-awakened hunter. However, despite their efforts, Jinwoo has no intention of engaging with them. Baek Yoonho looks at Jinwoo's sorry state and offers Jinwoo to escort him to his house. However, as Baek Yoonho is about to casually put his hand on Jinwoo's shoulder, Jinwoo vanishes into thin air from everyone's sight and reaches the parking lot in a blink, telling Baek Yoo-hoo that he does not need anyone's help. Choi Jong-in is amazed to see such movement from a hunter who is a mage class, but he gets concerned about Baek Yoonho, who is standing there confused, as he is shocked to find out that Jinwoo is fast to the extent that even his eyes were not able to follow him. Baek Yoonho already knew Jinwoo was stronger than him, but after observing his movements and magical energy from the evaluation room, he concludes that Jinwoo is far stronger than before, and informs Choi Jong-in that Jinwoo is now stronger than both of them. Baek Yunho cannot understand how Jinwoo was able to get even stronger than before, even though his double awakening should have happened quite some time ago. However, he suddenly realizes that the only possible explanation of this is that Jinwoo is a hunter that can continuously grow. After that, we get to some sort of auction guy who has a magical orb in front of him, as he says that he's been appraising artifacts for a long time, but that this is the first red-dyed orb that he's ever seen, saying that it really is able to amplify magic by 100%. He thinks to himself that even the most famous artifact master craftsmen can only create orbs with about 50% amplifications after puring out their heart and soul, thinking that if Choi Jong-in were to see this, he'd be walking in here with stacks of cash. The auctioneer asks Jinwoo where he got it from, and Jinwoo says that he got it from a dungeon. The auctioneer then asks if Jinwoo would like to auction this item off at their auction house, and that they can help him find the best price. But Jinwoo says that he will think about it. He thinks to himself that he wants to clear the demon castle as soon as possible and craft the holy water of life, and that he needs artifacts to protect him from the demon castle's heatwave. So Jinwoo asks him if it's possible to purchase artifacts with fire resistance. The auctioneer is a bit surprised, but says that it's not hard to find at all, as he says that artifacts with elemental resistances are usually expensive, so they don't put them up for sale online. However, it's still something they can easily obtain, and says that fire is the most common type. Jinwoo thinks that it's true, as both Song Chi-yeol and Choi Jong-in were both fire magic casters. Anyway, Jinwoo follows him, and he sees a ton of shiny artifacts. He asks Jinwoo if there's anything he likes, but Jinwoo just asks if it's safe to keep these artifacts behind these thin sheets of glass, and that he don't see any special security device. However, he explains that these sheets of glasses have been reinforced with magic and won't have any problems, even if an A-rank hunter were to hit them with all their might. He asks Jinwoo if he would like to hit them, and says that if he's successful in breaking the glass, then Jinwoo can keep the artifacts inside. After that, Jinwoo starts to power up. But before he can actually throw a punch, he says that he was just kidding, and that if he were to really break it, then veteran hunters would come rushing in here, as their auction house has a contract with Hunters Guild for security. But Jinwoo then just switches the subjects and asks if there's any daggers he can check out. After that, someone else comes and tells Jinwoo to follow him. As Jinwoo is leaving, the other guy can see a small break in the glass and wonders if Jinwoo managed to crack the glass without even touching it. Anyway, Jinwoo picks up a normal-looking dagger and asks how much it is, and the guy says that it's 30 million won. Jinwoo is in shock by this, as this dagger is worse than the Night Killer, but still it's that expensive. He then picks up another one and asks how much this is, and the guy looks at it closely before saying that it's worth 100 million won, which again leaves Jinwoo in total awe, as he says that a dagger that he purchased for around 3 million gold from that store goes for that much. He thinks to Kim Sang's steel blade with 10 plus attack, which was about 3 million won, and the hardly useful equipment that Jin-ho was wearing was worth hundreds of million of won, and he thinks that if he can sell the store-bought equipment for that much, then he won't have to sell the Orb of Avarice after all. After that, we switch scenes to the White Tiger Guild as we see Baek Yunho wonder if it's possible for a hunter to continuously grow. He says that his eyes, while in the beast form, can accurately determine someone's abilities, and that Jinwoo was definitely weaker than him during the Red Gate incident. But now things have changed, and he calls himself a fool, saying that, with that kind of ability, he would create his own guild instead of joining someone else's, as the nation's top guilds are nothing to him. And if he can keep growing, he will end up becoming the best, and both he and Choi Jong-in would have wasted their efforts. After that, we see the news, saying that through double awakening, Hunter Jinwoo was able to jump 5 stages from E rank to S rank, and was given the mage class abilities. After that, we see Sang-min with flames in his eyes, as he says that Master Beak might have given up in recruiting Jinwoo, but he hasn't given up yet, and that if he can talk to him just one more time, then he can definitely convince him. But someone says that Jinwoo wouldn't want to meet them with all of these reporters around, and we then see Gina peeking up through the window and telling Jinwoo that the reporters are still there. The reporters quickly spots her and wants to take a picture of her, but she hides herself. Jinwoo asks if he should go down and tell them to leave them alone, but Gina says that it's the last thing he should do, as Jinwoo is already being trashed on the internet, and lecturing reporters will only make it worse. He asks what he did to be trashed on the internet, and Gina says that he left without paying any attention to the reporters. But suddenly they hear the door knocking, and Jinwoo says that he will talk some sense to whoever is knocking at the door, and he opens and tells them to stop it. But suddenly he sees that it isn't any reporter, but instead Jin-ho, who's crying and saying that his father kicked him out. He then gets a smile on himself, as he asks Jinwoo if he could stay at his place for a while, but Jinwoo just closes the door on him. Which was quite funny. Gina asks who it was, But Jinwoo said that he had never met him in his life, and Jin-ho just continues knocking at the door. We then see Jin-ho's mother. I would guess asking Jin-ho's father if he isn't a bit too harsh on him, but his father says that he deserves it, saying that if he wanted independence, then he should have done it with his strength and not follow Jinwoo. He scratches his eyes and says how strange, and his wife asks him what he is talking about, and he tells her that he is seeing her double, and then suddenly, he falls down to his knees. After that, the night has arrived, and we see Jinwoo peeking into Gina's room. He thinks that someone might approach his sister while he's away, and after that, he tells some of his shadows to come out. He says that one of these guys should be enough to handle even an A-rank hunter, asking if them weren't 4 guards for Tusk, and asks where the 4th one is. But then he remembered that he must have been unable to turn the last one into a shadow because he was stuck in the ceiling. He tells 2 of them to return, and leaving 1 left, he says that he'll also attach 2 more guards and tells them to keep her sister safe. After that, he gets to the rooftop and says that while he's at it, he should try protecting the neighborhood as well, and he pulls out 5 shadows. He looks at them and tells them that from this point forward, they are this neighborhood's watchmen, and tells them to be careful not to get noticed by other people, and he then tells them to commence. He sits on top of some tube thing and says that even if a murderer were to appear, if they aren't on the level of a high-rank hunter, they won't be able to beat his shadow soldiers, and thinks that this should help the world run a bit more peacefully. After that, the day comes around, and Jinwoo asks Jin-ho if he was able to sleep. Jin-ho says that he did, and that motel facilities are pretty great these days, meaning that he didn't get to stay with Jinwoo after all. Anyway, Jin-ho asks Jinwoo what business he has at the World Tower this early, but without answering, we just see Jinwoo opening the car door and saying that he will be going. This leaves Jin-ho shocked, but as he looks back, Jinwoo has disappeared, and we see a message saying that Jinwoo has entered the Demon Castle dungeon. He's standing in the middle of a fiery place, as he thinks that the difficulty will now increase dramatically, which is just why he came prepared this time, with new items to protect him from the field's heat, which he calls his wind robe, but also his nameless ring, imbued with a water attribute purchased from the hunter's auction. Jinwoo looks extremely cold as he walks while saying that his preparations are perfect. After that, he gets a pop-up saying that a quest has arrived. It's called Normal Quest Collect Demon Souls Part 2, and goes as followed. The monarch of the demons, Baran, is residing on the highest floor of the demon castle, and he's supposed to eliminate Baran and collect its soul. His rewards will be the highest quality runestone, plus 30 bonus stats and a hidden reward. Jinwoo thinks that the rewards are better than the last time and says that a runestone that will grant him a job-specific skill. He says Shadow Extraction, Save Shadow, Domain of the Monarch. And those are the 3 job-specific skills he's got so far, and says that each and every one of them has incredible effects and that he is looking forward to it. Then another pop-up comes which says that floors 1 to 76 have been unlocked, and it asks Jinwoo where he would like to go, and without hesitations, Jinwoo says that he would like to go to the 76th floor. After that, he gets teleported there right away and sees a lot of insane and wild creatures. He then pulls out one of his shadows and gives it the magical red orb, and that gives his shadow a massive power-up as he's able to just destroy the entire city. As his shadow is attacking, Jinwoo is just getting more experience points than ever before as it just keeps flowing in. Jinwoo himself is surprised by this insane power and says that even though he's holding the Orb of Avarice, his abilities should have been nerfed after becoming a shadow, and that the Orb of Avarices seems to change according to its user, and he says that he should leave it for the Tusk for the time being. After that, we switch scenes entirely as we go to the hospital and see Yoo Ma-young-hun, or Jin-ho's father, who asks how long he's been asleep for. The doctor says that it's been 2 whole days. Yoo Ma-young-hun says that he must have been exhausted or asks if they discovered something in the tests. The doctor asks if there's anyone close to him that's a hunter or has received an awakening. Yoo Ma-young-hun asks the doctor why he's suddenly bringing this up, but he asks Yoo Ma-young-hun if he's heard of the Eternal Slumber. The Eternal Slumber is a sleep which one cannot wake up from. Not only is the patient unable to wake up, but the patient also consumes their life force at an incredible rate and thus requires a life support machine that uses magical energy. Eternal Slumber emerged after the appearance of Gates, and the illness killed those who cannot afford the life support machine. The doctor continues and says that the patients affected by the illness will consistently feel drowsy and eventually fall into a never-ending sleep. Yoo Ma-young-hun asks what this has to do with hunters, but the doctor explains that Eternal Slumber is deeply rooted with magical energy, and that there are some people who can't withstand magical energy by nature, and Eternal Slumber is just one of the illnesses that can develop due to a long exposure of magical energy. The doctor tells Yoo Ma-young-hun that he has to be careful with monster or mana crystal and people who emit magical energy, considering how suddenly the symptoms appeared. there must be something that stimulated the president's condition. And the doctor asks if Yoo Myung-han has anyone in the family who is a hunter, which makes him think of Jin-ho. Yoo Myung-han then gets an annoyed smirk as he says that he's already falling behind, but he says that he's determined not to lose just yet. After that, we see the text saying that at the same time on one of Japan's islands, an ant succeeded in reaching the shore without dying. After that, we see two adventurers walking close to the beach. An old man tells one of them that he is leaving the patrolling to him, and he tells the old man that he's having a recruit with him today. He explains to the recruit that they need to patrol every day, because if a gate were to appear on a remote island such as this, then they would be in big trouble, as they would be annihilated if a dungeon break were to occur, because they discovered it too late. He explains that it's why they must first quickly locate gates using a magical energy sensor, then send in a request for hunters outside the island, and the help will arrive after 3 days. But suddenly, as they are talking and walking, the recruit notices something in the distance. We get a close-up, and it's the ant who's coming closer towards them. However, we don't get to see what happens to them now, as we get back to Jinwoo and sees a bunch of monsters being defeated on the ground. He thinks that the number of shadow soldiers he can extract and save rose after increasing his intelligence stat, and he can now save up to 155 shadow soldiers. He says out loud that if it were possible to extract demons' shadows, then he could have had a gigantic army, and that it's too bad. After that, he looks super cold as he thinks to himself that it would be inefficient for the whole army to move in one big group, and that he needs to start managing them more efficiently. He then looks towards them and says that he will split them into teams for now, and that there'll be 6 teams in total. Those 6 teams are the Tusk team, Igris team, Iron team, Tank team, High Orc B team, and High Orc A team. He tells them that he has 2 orders, and that 1 will split up according to their group and eliminate any enemies they run into, and 2, they should notify him once they find the entry permit. He then tells them to disperse, which they do in an instant. He thinks that he will have to give up on drops other than the entry permit, but that the current priority is to reach the top floor as soon as possible. As he's thinking, the experience points just keeps on flowing into him. He thinks that it's more convenient now that he don't have to wander around and waste time as much. On top of that, he won't lose mana as long as they don't get destroyed. Anyway, he drinks a mana potion and says that now that the highest grade demons are appearing, the normal soldiers are having a tough time facing them, saying that Jinwoo needs to constantly use potions to recover his mana. Then a few days later goes by and Tank comes by Jinwoo's side, and we can see that he's reached level 24, which surprises Jinwoo as he's leveled up 10 times. Jinwoo thinks that not only has he himself leveled up, but all of his soldiers leveled up as well, and says that hunting in teams is much more efficient as he expected. But still there are 20 floors left. However, when looking at the bright side, he says that he was able to reach floor 80 faster than he'd expected, saying that it has already been 2 days since he reached floor 80, and that the fact that he wasn't able to find the entry permit yet makes him wonder if there's a strong enemy somewhere. But then suddenly he turns around in an instant as he feels his mana being consumed at a rapid rate, saying that someone is continuously destroying his shadow soldiers. Thinking that for his soldiers' regeneration, speed to be unable to catch up, the enemy must be overwhelming them. He thinks that the team in danger should be Team Iron, and is surprised that there's a demon strong enough to overwhelm Iron. His mana is getting consumed more and more, and he says that he has no choice but to recall his shadows for now. After that, we get to the next day, where due to the continuous ambush, the deployed soldiers were called back again. We then see Jinwoo drawing with a stick on the ground as he says that the High Orc B team and Igris team were attacked one after another, and that it's just as he predicted that there must be a strong enemy on this floor. But still, he thinks that it's strange as the Tusk team should be next to the Igris team, but the enemy somehow managed to skip over them and ambushed the High Orca team instead, thinking that the demon's not strong enough to defeat Tusk, and if they're purposely targeting the enemies they can win against, then it would mean the enemy has enough intelligence to detect the weaknesses of their enemies. However, with that knowledge, he thinks that if they purposely attacked High Orc B team, then the next target will be Tank. After that, Jinwoo goes to Team Tank and waits behind a stone, and just then, he sees some enemies approaching. Jinwoo sees that it's a demon noble and 3 demon knights. Tank then begins to growl, and one of the demon knights goes and completely slashes him without any trouble. Jinwoo sees this and thinks that his soldiers doesn't stand a chance against them, and as the knight has slain another shadow soldier. Jinwoo suddenly appears and the knight dashes towards him, and he goes in for an attack, but Jinwoo dodges it with ease and kills it with a simple kick to its face. After that, the other 2 knights goes over to try and attack Jinwoo, who suddenly disappears, but he then appears right in front of them and completely slays them down with pure ease. After that, it's only the demon noble left, and Jinwoo says that he was curious too if monsters could also experience fear, but he now says that he is certain that they can, and as he says that he has an immense aura around himself as he looks furious. Anyway, the demon noble starts firing attacks towards Jinwoo, which he dodges with little to no effort. However, he analyzed that the demon noble were aiming for all of his vital spots. Anyway, after that, Jinwoo has had enough of playtime, so he just straight up cut the demon noble's sword in half. He takes his hand around his face and is about to give in the final blow when suddenly the demon noble says that they give up. Jinwoo hears the voice and realizes that it's a girl and takes her helmet off. She right away apologizes and says that they were in the wrong and asking Jinwoo to spare her life. Jinwoo says that she attacked his soldiers and now she's asking for forgiveness. She says that she committed a grave sin, but that in their clan's shoes, they have to protect this area and that they can't sit still and let someone run wild and kill other demons like ants. Jinwoo then asks if it's okay for her to beg for her life to the person who killed her men, and she says that a knight's duty is to protect their master and that she's sure that the knights will be happy that she is safe. Jinwoo thinks to himself that he's never met such a selfish demon before. He turns around and thinks that he doesn't really want to stab her with such a human-like appearance. However, as he's turned around, the girl thinks that this is her chance and goes in for the kill. However, she hit with a barrier. We then see that it was Tusk who used his protection skill, and Jinwoo asks her what she is doing. After that, shamelessly, she gets down on the ground right away and says that she will give him whatever he wants if he spares her life. After that, Tusk uses his gravitation magic and makes the girl fly up, while Jinwoo asks if she can get the entry pass. The girl, while in the air, says that the entry pass is being protected by their clan, and that if Jinwoo can bring her home unharmed, then she can give it to him, which sounds like a trap. But sure, Jinwoo says that he was wondering why it wasn't showing up, but that he didn't expect it to be kept somewhere else for protection. The girl says that she even knows where the entry passes for the higher floors are being kept, and that she can guide Jinwoo to them if he can guarantee the safety of her life and her clan. Jinwoo says that it's tempting, but wonders if he can really trust her or not. After that, Jinwoo gets real close to the girl and activates his bloodlust skill and asks if he can trust her. She gets super afraid and says that she wasn't lying and that she is telling the truth. Jinwoo lets her down and says that if she can give him the entry pass, then he'll leave this place quietly, and she just thanks him. However, Jinwoo then looks back and asks her who they really are, but we don't get to see her answer just yet as we go back to the beach, where we see the giant ant munching on tons of people, and when he's feasted enough, he flies away. Anyway, back to the girl who says that she is Lady Isol, the eldest daughter of the Reindeer clan. However, Jinwoo says that he wasn't talking about that, and instead asks if she constantly hears voices in her head to kill humans. She thinks for a bit before saying that she doesn't, but that she hears a different kind of voice and her voice is telling her to protect the area that they reside in. Jinwoo thinks that the objective of these monsters is different than the gate monsters. The gate monster's objective is to kill humans, and the dungeon monster's objective to protect the instant dungeon. But he wonders if that means that he's like the gate monsters to these dungeon monsters. He then asks her when she started to hear these voices, and she says that she did from the moment she opened her eyes, which leaves Jinwoo extremely shocked, as he wonders if it means that these demons used to live somewhere else, and that this could be a clue to figuring out the nature of the system. And he asks her where she was before she opened her eyes in this place. She explains that she was in the demon world, and that before she knew it, she ended up here. Jinwoo isn't satisfied and asks her what she was doing in the demon world, and she says that they were preparing for war. Jinwoo asks her who they are preparing to go to war with, and she says that it's a war against an enemy so powerful that all the demons were required to gather together, which leaves Jinwoo interested. After that, Isol starts to look weird, and it's like she is glitching as she says that Jinwoo has surpassed the allowed amount of information, and that the conversation will be interrupted. Jinwoo thinks that it's the same thing that happened to Baruka, and that the system is forcibly blocking off the conversation, which must mean that talking with her can provide some sort of clue. Leveling up, instant dungeons, quest, rewards, and penalties. Since everything has been like a video game, it wouldn't be strange if monsters had a video game like backstory. He then asks her who this powerful enemy that she mentioned is. She's beginning to speak, but suddenly the text goes blank and she falls to the floor. However, Jinwoo is fast at it and catches her in his arms. She looks to be out cold, and Jinwoo thinks that the system has reacted strongly to the identity of the enemy, and that if that enemy has a transcendental power and is trying to influence him or the earth for some reason, the enemies that the demons fought, maybe they are the key in reality. After that, we get to a city where we see the hunters being in fear for their lives as someone says that it's not a normal monster, but before he can even finish his sentence, he is dead. Another one thinks that the weakest hunters, E-ranks, were the first ones to get killed, and after reducing their numbers, it killed their healer next to weaken them even more, which makes him wonder if this ant-like creature has some sort of intelligence. After that, we see someone saying that it's all the footage of the ant caught by the black box on a car. We get to a business meeting where it looks like Woo Jin-chul is saying that the mutant ant that infiltrated the island was eliminated within a day. The mutant ant was also first discovered on a small island close to where it was eliminated, and that it must have moved away after finishing the hunt there, saying that thanks to the hunters who answered the emergency calls up, they were able to eliminate the threat. He continues and says that casualties among the hunters are 4 E-rank hunters, 1 D-rank healer, and 1 C-rank leader, saying that the deciding factor in eliminating the mutant ant was an A-rank hunter that joined in late. Someone else says that, to be brief, in order to kill 1 mutant ant, they need the strength of at least 1 A-rank hunter, saying that the number of civilians killed by the attack was 294, and the number of dispatched hunters was 108, since the mutant ant can fly and has the ability to sense danger and escape. Japan's Hunter Association evaluated that the dispatch number was not an excessive amount. He explains that Japan is one of the most advanced countries in Asia in terms of the hunter system, and for Japan to have this many casualties. He wonders what would happen if the mutant ants were to fly over to South Korea, and then just like Japan has lots of islands, and that they can't afford to monitor them all. After that, the big man Go Gun-hee says that the island that was attacked is 150 kilometers away from Jeju Island, saying that if the ant can fly that far, and not just to the coastal provinces, then it means that they can fly pretty decently far. This makes everyone in the meeting room start to get a bit scared, so Go Gun-hee just decides to end it, and he leaves calling it a headache. After that, Woo Jin-chul goes to him and tells him that he didn't reveal this during the meeting earlier, but that there's someone who contacted them in top secrecy. He whispers that it's Hunter Hwang Dong-soo from the Scavenger Guild, and that he said that he would cooperate in the upcoming Jeju Island raid. Go Gun-hee calls it an obvious ploy, and Woo Jin-chul agrees, saying that his true goal is Jinwoo, but he says that due to the trouble with Hunter Baek-yoon-ho during the Red Gate incident, they sent a request for denial of entry to the country. But there's more, as he tells Go Gun-hee that Hunter Hwang Dong-soo isn't the only one that contacted them, and explains that this time it was a nation-level hunter, and we then see the so-called nation-level hunter, but we don't get a name yet. Anyway, after that we get back to the dungeon where Isil have just woken up. We then see Jinwoo standing by her side, asking if she's waken up, and telling her that it seems like demons aren't very friendly to each other, and points to a bunch of demons who tried to kill Isil in her sleep. Isil is in pure shock that Jinwoo protected her in her sleep, and she then thanks him, and explaining that demons without intellect don't consider demons with intellect as the same race. But Jinwoo doesn't care, as he gets right to business, as he asks her how far the place with the entry pass is. We then see a fiery and honestly pretty dope-looking demon castle. After that, we see Jinwoo talking with Essel, and Essel asks one of the guards where her father is, and he says that he is currently in the throne room, but he asks who Essel's guest is, but she just says that he's an important guest and to show him some courtesy. After that, we see them walking into the throne room, and Isil tells her father that she has brought a guest, but we quickly see that her father is quite scared as he asks her who the hell she has brought with him. She tries to explain, but her father screams, asking why she's brought someone here with an army, asking Essel if she can't see that Jinwoo has countless soldiers hidden in himself. The guards quickly goes to corner him, but he then speaks up and says that he promised Isil that he would leave this place quietly if they just handed over the entry pass to him. Isil's father looks scared and wonders if Jinwoo is the man that's been killing the demons at a tremendous rate and climbing the tower, saying that despite being one of nobility, the Radier clan is one of the weakest among the 20 demon noble clans, and wonders if they even have a chance of dealing with Jinwoo. He then asks if the entry pass is the only thing which Jinwoo wants, but he then reveals that there's one more thing. He puts his hand on Essel's shoulder and pulls her closer and says that he wants to borrow her for a bit. Essel starts to blush, while Jinwoo thinks that Essel knows where the rest of the entry passes are, and that he would need her to guide him to the locations of each of them. But he quickly wonders if he said something wrong, as we can see Isil's father looking extremely mad. After that, the three of them sit down to eat, and Jinwoo explains the misunderstanding and says that he simply needs Isil as a guide. Essel's father thinks to himself that it hurts his pride to cut a deal with a human. But had he known that this monstrous human was the master of those black soldiers, then he wouldn't have fought him to begin with. After that, he speaks up and asks if Jinwoo would put his daughter in danger. But Jinwoo says that he will keep his promise. After that, he says alright, and some sort of shadow maid comes and hands Jinwoo the entry pass. He opens it and thinks that from now on, he will have to obtain entry passes from each clan. After he's looked at the entry pass, he gets up and asks Isil if she will be able to leave right away, which Isil says that she will. After that, Jinwoo gets a pop-up saying that the demon noble has requested for a party, where it says that members would be able to share experience, however it's based on the contribution of the battle. So he tells Isol that if there's a battle, she shouldn't interfere, and that he will take care of it himself, which makes Isol start to feel something as she says yes with a smile on herself. And after that it was time for departure, and Jinwoo asks her if she is fine with not riding her horse. She says that only party members can access the movement magic circle, so she couldn't bring her horse along her. After that, she tells Jinwoo to wait, and she pulls out some sort of alcohol from her backpack, saying that the head of Garshi loves this alcohol, and she says that her father prepared items that each of the clan heads will appreciate. But Jinwoo is confused and just asks why. Essel explains that if they bring these with them, then the negotiations will go more smoothly. But before she can finish her sentence, Jinwoo asks her if they are friendly with the Garshi clan, by any chance. She says that they aren't, but that they aren't hostile with each other either. Jinwoo starts to walk again and says that it's fine then and tells her to just wait here, and that he won't take long. As he says that, he starts getting ready for fight as he walks towards the castle, and the text down below says that it only took a few minutes for the flames to erupt along with the screaming from the Garshi clan's castle. After that, we switch scenes for a quick second as we go over to the Hunter Association, where we see Go Gun-hee talking with someone. The one who he's talking with compliments Go Gun-hee's English. However, he doesn't seem to trust Go Gun-hee fully, as he thinks that it's a bit weird that South Korea's 10th S-rank hunter Jinwoo's whereabouts are currently unknown. Go Gun-hee says that he's very elusive, so their monitoring division is having a bit of a hard time locating him. The other guy asks how he can trust Go Gun-hee, but he says that South Korea's Hunter Association isn't foolish enough to lie in front of a nation-level hunter. The other guy smiles as he says that he understands. After that, he continues, and says that he heard that their Hwang Dong-soo came to South Korea and caused some sort of ruckus, and says that since he also has the dignity of an S-rank hunter, they are in no position to push him around, saying that Jinwoo is one thing, but that he also came here to request South Korea's Hunter Association to deny Hwang Dong-soo entry into the country, but that it seemed like Go Gun-hee had already fixed it. With that settled, they get up and shakes hands, however. As Go Gun-hee is standing in front of him, he thinks to himself that he doesn't have a small build, but that in front of him, he's like a little child. Anyway, he's beginning to go, but says that if South Korea has the capital to hire him, then he could go along to Jeju Island, but as they can't, he says that he's got a plane to catch. Woo Jin-chul asks him if a hunter from a monitoring division can accompany him. He says that they can do what they want, but he also tells him that their conversation that they just had can't be leaked to the outside world. As he's left go, Gun-hee asks Woo Jin-chul if he thinks that expecting his presence in the upcoming Jeju Island raid was just a delusion. However, Woo Jin-chul tells him not to worry, as Japan's cooperation has already been confirmed, and that a hunter from Japan's enormous guild will be visiting South Korea today. After that, we get back to Jinwoo, and we can see that he's just racking up experience points after experience points as he's going ham on the Demon Knights. We see that he's managed to get himself to level 87, and says that these guys seem to give a lot of experience since their levels are high, not to mention that both his Igris and tank has reached max level, which gives Jinwoo the option to give them a promotion due to reaching the required level. And Jinwoo, without any hesitation of course, accepts the promotion for them. After that, their shadow starts to swirl around them, and the text says that Knight Igris has been promoted from rank Knight to rank Elite Knight. After that, we see Igris who's now level 1, but with the rank Elite Knight, and just looking at him, Jinwoo can feel an aura of a totally different league, saying that with this, Igris has obtained the strength of an S rank and tank has gained the strength of an A rank. Isol then says, Sir Jinwoo, but Jinwoo tells her that she doesn't need to add the Sir all the time. She is having a hard time dropping it, and says it again, but continuing and asking him if he knows how many clans he's destroyed so far, and he says that since this is the 89th floor, excluding Isol's clan, this should be the 9th. Isol looks worried, and says that starting from the 90th floor, each one will be supervised by the clans of highly ranked nobles, and says that they are on a completely different league. She says that if Jinwoo can persuade them, they might just hand over the entry passes to him, just like her clan. But he then asks her if he was weaker than her clan, if they still would have negotiated with him, which makes Isil realize that it doesn't work like that. Jinwoo is starting to stretch himself, as he remembers Isil saying that there's a fierce competition between the demon clans due to the rankings, and says that he will boost her clan to first place. However, she then looks a bit curious as she asks Jinwoo why he chose to exclude her clan. He looks back at her and says that it's because he took a liking to her, which leaves her a bit flustered as she starts to blush. However, Jinwoo just thinks to himself that just like Jin-ho, he always seemed to be compatible with people that have clumsy personalities. After that, the text says that just as Essel said, The difficulty suddenly increased on the 90th floor. The monster's levels and the numbers are in a different league that can't be compared to the lower floors. And despite increasing his intelligence, it seemed insignificant with how his mana is being heavily consumed, which just shows how often the shadow soldiers are regenerating after being destroyed. However, as he's reached the 97th floor, he says that it doesn't mean that it was possible for him to get past 90th floor through luck anymore, and as he's slicing up some demons, we can also see that he's gotten to level 90. Isil, who's watching from the side, thinks that even the rank 4 Peitos clan and rank 5 Ricado clan were slaughtered by Jinwoo. Essel asks Jinwoo if the other humans are also as strong as he is. He looks at her and says that maybe about 2 people, thinking to himself that Go Gun-hee and Cha-hei, those two definitely felt stronger than the other S ranks, and based on their aura, Cha-hei was few leagues ahead of Choi Jongin, who is known as the ultimate soldier, saying that in other words there are power gaps within the S ranks. Rather, since S ranks are immeasurable, they may have bigger power gaps compared to other ranks. Thinking that he was comparable to Chairman Go Gun-hee back then, but it may be different now that he's reached the top floors. Anyway, after that, he goes to Isil and tells her that she can go back to her floor now, and that he will take care of it himself from this point on. Isil is surprised by this, and asks if she isn't useful to Jinwoo anymore. Jinwoo pats her on the shoulder while telling her that she has done well until now, and he thanks her. She is quiet before she speaks up, and says that she wants to come with Jinwoo, saying that she wants to see the outcome of his fight. He looks at her and tells her to do as she pleases, and they then move into the 98th floor. After that, we get to Incheon International Airport, where we see S-rank hunter Goto Ryuji saying that there's some kind of commotion going on, and saying that there's someone strong here at the airport. His assistant asks him if there's someone stronger than himself, but he thinks that there's no way that such a person would be at a place like this. After that, someone goes forward to them and apologizes for being late. Goto says that it's fine, but asks if there's something going on in the airport. The guy says that a hunter from the United States came to South Korea on personal business, and that it's nothing to worry about. After that, the guy escorts Goto, and we then see that he had a meeting with Go Gun-hee. Go Gun-hee looks at Goto, and thinks that this is the only hunter that can rival Liu Jiang in Asia. Explaining that there are currently 21 S-rank hunters in Japan, and 11 of them are part of Goto Ryuji's guild, called Draw Sword, unlike the structure of South Korea, with 5 different guilds competing with each other. A single guild possesses all the authority there, and saying that there's no question that Goto Ryuji's guild is the biggest one in Asia after the guild in China. After that, his assistant says that her name is Hanekawa and that she will be in charge of translating, and that she will relay Goto's words from here on out, saying that due to the disaster that occurred a few days ago, they have decided that they can no longer neglect Jeju Island anymore, hence they promised their full-fledged support to South Korea. Goto then speaks up and says that in short, the reason why he is here is to ask to untie and create an allied force composed of elite hunters. Go Hun-hee asks if Goto is saying that they would like to create an allied force and attack the ant colony, which Goto says is spot on. Go Gun-hee says that he knows very well that Japan's top hunters are excellent, but that it's too dangerous to enter Jeju Island. Goto says that since it's an S-rank gate, they have prepared a suitable plan for it. After that, Hanekawa gives them the data that they have collected from investigating the ants, saying that each ant is as strong as a top-rank hunter, but that they have one fatal weakness, which is their lifespan, as the ants have a lifespan of 1 year. Goto says that in other words, if they can eliminate the queen, all the other ants will die naturally after a year, and Jeju Island will be free of their presence. Go Gun-hee thinks that it may seem more realistic than eliminating every ant on the island, but getting rid of a single queen ant is no different than eliminating thousands of soldier ants. Go Gun-hee asks if Goto doesn't know that the ants are willing to die for their queen. Goto says of course, and that they will have to break through a defensive line of thousands of ants, but the tides will change if all of them were to leave their ant tunnel. Go Gun-hee asks if something like that is possible, and Goto says that it happened a total of 3 times in the past, saying that when the South Korean hunters landed on Jeju Island for the raid on all 3 occasions, the ants left their tunnel and swarmed the hunters. Hanekawa says that it's the result that's been confirmed by their very own magic detection techniques. Goto then reveals that 10 out of the 11 S-rank hunters in his guild, including himself, plan on participating in the up-and-coming Jeju Island raid, saying that they will take on the role of drawing in the soldier ants' attention, while the South Korea hunters take care of the queen ant. Go Gun-hee thinks that if 10 S-rank hunters were to draw in the attention of the ants, only the queen and a few guards will be left in the tunnel. Goto continues and says that their S-rank hunters will split into teams and launch an attack from all directions. The ants will rush to the location of their attacks, leaving the queen alone in the tunnel, and then the South Korean S-rank hunters will infiltrate the island through a helicopter, eliminate the queen, and leave the island in the same helicopter. Go Gun-hee thinks that it's definitely a possibility, but wonders why Goto is willing to support them to the extent of deploying all his S-rank members, except for one. After that, we get into Goto's own thought as he thinks that every nation-level hunter has a record of clearing S-rank gates, thinking that if you look at his performances until now and after the Jeju Island raid, he should climb to the point where it wouldn't be weird for him to also receive the title of nation-level hunter, thinking that there will be national interest just from the emergence of nation-level hunters from Japan. And since it's an S-rank gate, 10 members will participate to be on the safe side, as the danger must be minimized, saying that there's no reason for South Korea to refuse, and that it's not the right path, but that it can't be helped in order to become a nation-level hunter. Go Gun-hee thinks that compared to Japan, South Korea only has 8 S-rank hunters, excluding himself and Min Byung-soo, who has retired. They only have 6 hunters that can participate, thinking that the problem is if they can successfully kill the S-rank dungeon's boss. However, he thinks that it definitely is possible if Jin-woo, the man who took care of an A-rank gate's boss by himself, can cooperate with other S-rank hunters. He knows that the ants are evolving at an alarming rate and that they don't know when the entire ant population will gain the ability to fly, which is why he knows that they can't wait any longer, which is why Go Gun-hee tells Goto that he understands and that after reviewing the data, they will submit a concrete operation plan. Anyway, after that we leave them and instead goes over to Jinwoo, who we see is now at level 93, and on top of that he's just reached the 100th floor. Suddenly he can feel a dragon coming closer. The dragon lands on top of a tower, and we see a demon standing on top of it, and that demon is none other than the demon king Baran. Jinwoo knows that he has no ordinary aura, and even questions if he can win against him. Isel is in pure shock by the insane amount of intense bloodlust she is feeling from Baran. Jinwoo looks over and sees this, and notices that not even Isel is clear from the effects. He looks over at the dragon, or rather Vern, which is called Kaizelin, and thinks that an enemy that can fly will be troublesome. But then something clicks for him, as he thinks that, other than the horse that Isel was riding on, this is his first time seeing a non-demonkin. This also means that maybe if it's not a demon, then it may be possible for him to extract its shadow. Anyway, after that the fight starts as Baran uses one of his skills called Hell's Army, which makes a ton of demon knights come to life, and he has a whole army just staring Jinwoo down. Jinwoo thinks that demon knights and generals are at least A-rank monsters, and that there are over 100 of them. He says that from just a glance he can see more than 1,000 demons, and asks if it's starting already. Isel is a bit scared as she asks Jinwoo what they should do. The demon starts to approach them, and Isel screams at Jinwoo to do something. However, he's patiently waiting for them to come closer, and when they got in range, Jinwoo used his skill, Domain of the Monarch, and tells his own shadows to come out. Now why did he wait to use this skill? Well, as his soldiers comes out, they stab some of the demons, which was an easy way to reduce some of Baran's numbers, and even Isel is amazed by this. However, 5 demons are approaching Jinwoo, but there's no way that his shadows would let that happen, as firstly Iron and Tank goes ham as they take some of them out, before Igris jumps high up into the air, locates a monster, and then slashes it down with ease before landing on Tusk's shoulder, who we see is preparing for his skill, the Hymn of Combustion. And he also has the Orb of Avarice, which powers up his abilities even more, and with that combined Tusk is able to make a massive attack on Baran's soldier, wiping a ton of them out. Isel is watching this from the sidelines and says that she may have made it to the highest floor, but that this is the first time she is seeing Jinwoo fight. But the fact still stands that Jinwoo is up against Baran, the ruler of this place. While Jinwoo is an invader, this makes Isel question who she is supposed to side with. Anyway, after that we get to see Baran starting to get active as he fires some sort of lightning from his mouths, which comes down in multiple places in the battlefield. Jinwoo takes his coat around Isel and protects her. Jinwoo thinks that this is no ordinary lightning, and that it's an AoE magic with the ability to stun enemies, and he knows that if he isn't able to stop that magic, then his shadow soldiers will be torn to shreds, and his mana will run out completely, which is why he decides to spring into action as he jumps up on top of a building before jumping towards Baran, as he knows that his main priority is getting him down to the ground. But just as he's about to go for the wyvern's wings, Baran had quickly taken his sword before Jinwoo's and blocking his attack, and then slamming into the ground, and we can definitely feel that Baran isn't some normal enemy, as Jinwoo felt the strength of his attack. However, as Jinwoo is on the ground, Baran starts to charge up another lightning attack and he shoots it right at Jinwoo. He's able to dodge it, but the lightning is following him, and he even says that it's slowly but surely catching up, and that there's a limit to how much his robe can absorb the damage. However, his Shadow Soldiers isn't going to just sit and watch as Baran is attacking Jinwoo, so Tusk loads up his own fireball and sends it against Baran. Tusk's fireball is stronger than Baran's lightning, which makes so that it cut through his lightning and hits Baran alongside his wyvern. As Jinwoo sees this, he says that giving the orb to Tusk ended up being worthwhile. Anyway, the wyvern is knocked out cold, so Baran has gotten down to the ground, and Jinwoo is pleased with this as he puts his sword against him, while saying that he was getting pretty tired from looking up, and we then see Baran starting to already close the distance, as he actually looks pretty furious. Anyway, we see some text where it says that occasionally there are certain skills that don't consume mana. For example, Dominator's Touch and Shadow Soldiers. And generally like that, Dominator's Touch can control and influence physical objects, but the proficiency will vary depending on the weight of the object. Nevertheless, it doesn't consume mana. Also, since Shadow Soldier is summoning soldiers that he already have saved, it doesn't require mana. However, it's a very different story when they're destroyed by enemies, as destroyed soldiers will consume mana to regenerate, and if there's no mana left, then the soldiers will return back to his shadow, which is why it's important to increase his intelligence stat to expand his maximum mana. After that, Jinwoo thinks that both Baran's battle prowess and mana are immense, wondering what's the principle behind his soldiers, and saying that if the destroyed soldiers don't regenerate, then he should be constantly consuming huge amounts of mana to resummon them. Anyway, with that said, we are back to the action-packed battle, where we see Baran starting it off with firing a lightning blast towards them. But luckily Tusk used his Hymn of Protection to shield Jinwoo from the blast. As Jinwoo is getting shielded, he thinks that he's gradually losing mana and saying that Baran isn't even giving him any chance to replenish. He gets an intense look and thinks that the mana consumption for regenerating higher ranked soldiers is even greater, but that doesn't mean that he should avoid receiving their help. And with that in mind, Jinwoo knows that he has to finish this fight before his mana is completely drained. After that, we see Iron going in for an attack of his own. But as his axe is going to make contact with Baran, Baran just hits it away, making it fade away. And after that, Baran fires back and takes his sword and completely penetrates Iron's head. Igris sees this and thinks that he can't let that slide, so he jumps high up into the air and goes to slash Baran down. But again, somehow Baran catches Igris' sword with his bare hand, and then he shoots a lightning blast right into Igris' face. However, Jinwoo uses this to his own opportunity as he sneaks up behind Baran and uses his skill Vital Strike, which Baran just manages to parry in the last second, which leaves Jinwoo in complete awe. After that, Baran just takes his big grubby hands around Jinwoo's face and lifts him up. But just when Baran is going to go in and kill Jinwoo, we see both Iron's and Igris' weapons sticking up from the ground and blocking his attack, and Jinwoo uses that chance to inflict 2 hits with his dagger right into Baran's chest. That makes Baran drop Jinwoo, and then Igris takes his sword and pierces it right through Baran's arm, which makes him drop his sword. But this makes Baran completely furious as his eyes turns red before he unleashes a lightning blast all around him, which makes Jinwoo fly away. After that, Baran summons 2 large weapons for each of his hands. After seeing that Jinwoo gets ready for fight, as he also is wielding 2 weapons, they look at each other before in a flash, both rushes towards each other. They go back and forth in a furious battle of attacks before Jinwoo uses his Vital Strike, and it looks like he hits Baran's left shoulder with it. Their barrage of attacks continues before Baran starts getting ready a lightning blast, which Jinwoo wasn't ready for as he didn't believe that Baran would use it this close. But just in the last second, he manages to take his daggers before the blast. But the blast is so powerful, so it makes Jinwoo's daggers fly into the sky, making Jinwoo weaponless. Baran sees this as his chance to end it. But as he attacks, Jinwoo catches both his hands, but he's slowly being pushed down by Baran's tremendous power. Then once again Baran decides to fire off another lightning blast, and Jinwoo is in shock by Baran's insane mana. Just as Baran is about to finish Jinwoo and end this fight, something suddenly hits his head, which puts a hold to his lightning blast. We see that it was a dagger, and we also see that it was none other than the goat Isel, who threw it at Baran, even though her hands were completely shaking while she did it. Baran looks over furiously at Isel, but Jinwoo isn't going to let anything happen to her, as he knows that this is his chance. He thinks that together with all of his strength stat and the power of Dominator's Touch, he will finish it. He activates it, and is able to pull away Baran's entire left arm. Baran looks at Jinwoo in amazement, while Jinwoo only starts to look more furious as he tells Baran to end this, and with that, he throws one of his punches right to Baran's face, which makes his whole head blow off. Essel is in awe as Baran's body falls to the floor, and Jinwoo gets a pop-up saying that he defeated the demon King Baran, and also he obtained Baran's soul, which completes his normal quest. Essel runs to Jinwoo in again pure amazement, and Jinwoo falls down to the ground before he looks at Isel and tells her to go and inform her father that her clan is now in first place. And once again, he calls her clan for Radis and not Radier, but I don't think Jinwoo will ever learn the difference. But with that, the sun starts to go down, and we see that Jinwoo has reached level 97. Anyway, After that, we see some of Jinwoo's lower shadow soldiers being on the ground and collecting crystals. After that, we also see Jinwoo, who's acquired the Demon Monarch's ring, and with that ring, he's now unlocked all the set effects. But rather than being proud over that, he thinks that this is the highlight as he holds the purified blood of the Demon King in his hand. And with that, he's able to start crafting the holy water of life. Isol asks if Jinwoo is alright, but Jinwoo is way too focused on this to answer her. He starts to craft it for real, and the text says that the success rate and the number of items crafted will be depend on the crafter's intelligence stat, which is the first time Jinwoo has heard about this, and says that if he knew it beforehand, then he would have spent all his stats on intelligence. Essel tries to be supportive by the side, as she says that she's sure that it will turn out just fine. It starts to count down from 10 to 1, but as it reaches 1 it says that the crafting was successful, and that he's now crafted 6 holy water of life. I would assume, as it says a 6 next to it. Anyway, Jinwoo looks super happy that the crafting was successful, but as he looks at his inventory, he sees that he lost a bit of the blood of the Demon King and the World Tree's fragment, but that the spring water of the Echoing Forest is completely gone, which makes Jinwoo wonder if it only consumed the exact required amount instead of using them entirely. However, in the end, that doesn't matter as Jinwoo now has the holy water of life. But he still wonders if it can really save his mother's illness and says that he wants to go back to the hospital right away and check it out. Suddenly, Iron comes to Jinwoo while dragging the wyvern in his hand. After that, Jinwoo gets close to it and says, "Arise." Essel tries to warn him, but Jinwoo says that he can't turn demons into shadow soldiers, but that it looks like it's possible for Wyvern, and as he says that, we of course see the big wyvern staring at Jinwoo. Jinwoo needs to choose a name for it, but he can't seem to remember what he was called, so instead of trying to remember, he calls it Kaisel, which makes Kaisel starts to roar out of excitement. Essel says that with Kaisel, they will be able to return to Radier at once. However, Jinwoo just thinks that he wants to leave the demon castle as fast as he can, and wonders if he has to go down the floors one by one to do that. As Jinwoo is in his thoughts, Essel tells him that there will be a banquet as soon as they get back. However, Jinwoo is too busy to answer. He thinks that he still has his quest rewards left, and from them, he collects a runestone called Shadow Exchange, as well as a 30+ stat boost, and not to mention the title of Demon Hunter. However, what interests Jinwoo the most is the runestone, which he breaks up, and from it, he gets a skill called Shadow Exchange, which lets him exchange locations between the user and the selected shadow soldier. The skill can be used again only after the 3-hour cooldown is finished, and the cooldown will change depending on the skill level. Jinwoo is amazed by this, as he calls it an unbelievable skill, and says that no matter where his shadow soldiers are located, he can exchange locations with them, and calls it basically teleportation. After that, he turns around and tells everyone that they did a great job, and he apologizes to Essel, as he tells her that she has to return to her clan by herself. Essel asks him if he will miss out on the banquet, but Jinwoo says that Radis clan is located on the 80th floor, and that it's too far away to just go back to get the reward. He starts being consumed by some sort of shadow as he waves to her, and says that he will see her again if he ever gets the chance, and tells her to take care. Just as his shadow exchange ability activates, she tries to say something, but Jinwoo has already been teleported away, and in turn left a shadow soldier, along with Essel, who both are just as confused, as the shadow around Jinwoo starts to disappear. He sees that he's been teleported to his neighborhood. After that, he calls on Kaisel, who comes in an instant, and he uses Kaisel to, instead of walking, he flies over the city towards the hospital, which is just so insanely dope. After that, we get to the Hunter Association, where we see Woo Jinchul, who talks about the ant situation, and they were watching the videos of the first, second, and third raid attempts. And Gu Gunhee says that it was like Goto said, that the ants certainly do leave their nest, except for the queen ant and her guards, thinking that the fact of the appearance of these ants is always changing is proof that they are evolving with each generation, and the lifetime of each generation is roughly a year. Go Gunhee thinks that he's still a bit bothered by the guard ants, but there are always few guards protecting the boss monster in highly ranked dungeons. He then asks Woo Jinchul what the possibility of the ants returning to their nest earlier than expected is, and Woo Jinchul explains that they will be using a jamming signal, saying that the ants are able to communicate with each other using their own special wavelength, and Goto Ryuji plans on disturbing them with a jamming signal, which makes it so that they just have to worry about the queen ant and her guard. But then, suddenly out of nowhere, Go Gunhee turns his head in an instant, and Woo Jinchul asks him what's wrong, but Go Gunhee just asks him if he couldn't feel it, as it was a magical wavelengths that could be sensed from far away, and wonders what happened. And he asks Woo Jinchul if they still haven't been able to contact Hunter Jinwoo, thinking that this could be his doing. But Woo Jinchul says that they are trying their best. After that, we get to some sort of tent where someone asks if they also felt it, and the other guy says that he may have retired, but that his rank didn't drop. We then see that it was Baek Yoon-ho who asks what it was. The guy sitting in front of him says that Choi Jong-in and Cha Hai must be at each other's throats over their shares in the Hunters Guild or something. After that, Baek Yoon-ho pours another glass to this mysterious man, and we then learn that it's none other than the S-rank healer Min Byung-gu, who asks Baek Yoon-ho to smile a bit, saying that he will get old quickly if he's always frowning, but Baek Yoon-ho tells him an instant no. He looks at Min Byung-gu and thinks that along with his sense of humor, he really is a weird guy, saying that he is the first S-rank hunter to retire with all 4 limbs intact. However, he isn't only the first, as he's also the only one, because let's be real, how many would choose to quit considering how much money S-rank hunters can make? After that, Min Byung-gu changes topic, as he asks Baek Yoon-ho if he really is going to Jeju Island, which he says that he is. Min Byung-gu reminds him that he saw how Yoon-suk died, but Baek Yoon-ho interrupts and says that it's exactly why he needs to go, as if they leave the ants alone, then the entirety of Korea will end up meeting the same fate. Min Byung-gu asks him when he became so patriotic, but Baek Yoon-ho just says that he need a cool excuse since it's something he has to do either way. After that, Min Byung-gu says that he refuses to go and says that if Baek Yoon-ho came here to convince him, then he's sorry. But Baek Yoon-ho says that he wasn't, but he just wanted to see Min Byung-gu before heading off, because if he's honest, then he doesn't know if he will be able to see him again. Min Byung-gu explains that he is preparing for his teaching certification exam and that he plans on becoming an ordinary civil servant, which Baek Yoon-ho seems shocked about. He then explains that Yujin Architectures are recruiting talented hunters to create their own guild, and that he also received a call and that they even offered him the guild master position. However, ever since he retired, it hasn't just been Yujin Architectures, and that he's also received countless sweet deals. Despite that, Places with Blood is just not meant for him. After that, they just toast with each other and talks about other stuff. After that, we get to the hospital where we see Jin-woo enter through the window. He looks at his mom and thinks that if he screw up here, then he might not be able to reverse it. He thinks that she might not be able to swallow the holy water of life at all. And even if she does, then it's of course no guarantee that she'll be fine. But still, he's seen many miracles created by the system. Stories that other people will never believe, and it's all due to the system's power. Jin-woo even says that he can't forget that he once was an E-rank hunter and has made it this far, thanks to the system, which is just why it should be fine to trust it once more. And just like that, he opens the bottle and lifts up his mother's head. As he's going closer with the bottle, his hand starts to shake. He looks worried as he starts to pour the holy water into his mother's mouth. As he's doing it, he looks at his mother's scar on her neck, and he thinks back to his childhood where we see him crying while saying that all he wanted to do was wash his mother's hair. We see his mother getting close to him and asking if he is okay while having literal steam coming off her neck. Jin-woo, however, thinks that he was the one at fault and that it's because of him that she has that scar. Anyway, back to the present. We see Jin-woo's mother's skin return to its natural color, but Jin-woo is still sitting beside her, stressing and wondering why she isn't waking up. He looks scared and tells her to please open her eyes. He thinks that he only ever had one reason why he wanted to become stronger, so he once again asks her to please wake up, asking her to please let Jin-woo carry the burden she has been carrying. After that, he sits down and once again says please, while his mom is still laying in the bed. While Jin-woo is stressing by his mother's side, we see Gina, who says that she can't seem to concentrate while studying, so she goes to the store. But as she leaves the store with her items, she says that the air is surprisingly warm this night. After that, we see Jin-woo, who's looking down at the floor, when suddenly we see someone start sitting up on her bed. However, the curtain is annoyingly in the way, but still, it's obviously his mother who asks if it's Jin-woo who's sitting there. After that, we see the curtain finally moving, and we see her looking fine as she looks at Jin-woo and asks how long she's been asleep for. Jin-woo tells her that it's now been 4 years. His mother then right away asks if Gina is doing okay, and Jin-woo is feeling so many emotions right now, so he starts grabbing his clothes very hard while his hands are trembling as he tells his mother that Gina is fine. She then looks at Jin-woo with a super kind expression and thanks him for keeping his promise. His mother takes his hand and holds it while she says that. Because she got sick, she knows that it must have been insanely hard for Jin-woo. Jin-woo can't bear to face her, and he looks down while his tears starts to drop from his eyes. And before you know it, there was a stream of tears falling down while he says that it was pretty hard. And this, ladies and gentlemen, has been the full and explained Return to the Demon Castle arc, which if we are honest was pretty exciting, as his fight with Baran was insane. However, the thing that is even more insane is the next arc, so be sure to leave a comment telling me if you want to continue this series and go over the next arc. Anyway, if you like solo leveling and videos like this, then I would highly suggest you subscribe to this channel, and while you are at it, leave a comment and a like as it helps out with the algorithm a ton. And if you are curious to see another video of mine, then please watch the video which will be popping up on the screen now. Anyway, thanks for watching and have a great day. Bye.